Hello guys, and recently Putin has sacked another general. Well, actually not just a general, but the chief of the land forces of the Russian army. And that is one of many fired this year. Perhaps Putin's blitzkrieg failed. Well, that's obvious. But one important fact that many forget about. At the very start of invasion, back in 2022, Russia controlled more of the Ukrainian territories than it controls now. But even more important, back in 2022, Russia controlled more of the Russian territories than it controls now. And that is definitely a failure of the Russian top military management. And that is why another sacked chief of the land forces is both a demonstration of constant Russian failures, but also a proof that Russia wants to continue fighting. That is exactly what they repeated today in Istanbul. But we will talk about the General Salyukov. Why was he sacked and what it tells us about the weakness of the Russian army. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of the Russian Federation that has already started, please subscribe, we discuss all of that on the channel. General Salyukov is this old-school Russian general. He was a part of Putin's team for a very long period of time, and he actually occupied this top position, the chief of the land forces, since 2014. And those of you who follow modern history remember that 2014 was the year when Russian war against Ukraine actually started. So we may say that for 11 years this general was working for Putin, and now Putin is super dissatisfied to the extent that he sacks him, and he knows this will be discussed in the media inside Russia, outside Russia. We may say that is a part of a tendency or an epidemic among the top military management. Many of them, dozens, were fired since the start of this year. Shoigu, the long-term friend of Putin, he was in top military management since 90s, since the very beginning of the Russian Federation history, lost his position. Got something that no one knows the responsibilities. He remains somewhere on the periphery of decision makers, and now Salyukov joined the team of those used and no more useful military men of the failing Russian army. Actually, Salyukov was responsible for the military parade in Moscow that took place less than 2 weeks ago. The one where Xi Jinping was actually a host, and that definitely demonstrated Russia's total dependence on China. But what is interesting, perhaps for General Salyukov, nothing predicted this total failure, and now he is sacked. Part of that is the strength of the Ukrainian army and the determination of our fighters, and that's why I want to ask you to support one very important fundraiser organized by a very trustworthy and famous Ukrainian volunteer, Serhiy Pritula, and he is asking to get the funds to buy a new CT scanner for the Kharkiv hospital, the one that saves lots of Ukrainian soldiers. The previous CT scanner broke. And you know why it happened? Because it works tremendously a lot. They typically have the same number of patients per month than in the normal hospital per year. And the sum that they need is really big, 30 million hryvnias. They need to buy it as soon as possible, because if you want to save lives of soldiers who are often severely wounded, you definitely need CT scans. You need to see what's happening inside to provide the necessary help. And that is why I'm connecting the link and I'm asking you to support this hospital in the brave city of Kharkiv. You know, Kharkiv is very dear to my heart. It's close to the front lines, and the best of the Ukrainian people are there. Let's save those who save us, and not just Ukrainians, but the world. And actually, this sacking of General Salyukov is partially because of such Ukrainian warriors who destroy all of the Russian plans. And here, once again, I want to remind this very important fact. Back in 2022, when nobody believed in Ukraine, when Russians kept attacking from all the fronts, we managed to stop them. And back in 2022, they controlled more of the Ukrainian territories than they do now. But what is more important, what is worth sharing, what is worth liking, back in 2022, Russians controlled more Russian territories than they do now. They do not control their own borders. Ukrainian armed forces are in Belgorod and Kursk regions. And we have shown that Russia is a paper tiger, or as some of you beautiful people say, toilet paper tiger. I kind of like it. I'm not in Istanbul. I know you know my traditional background, but in Istanbul, we knew that negotiations are fake. Russian delegation tried to threaten us, but come on, we all know Russia will fight until it is totally defeated and demilitarized, and that's exactly the plan of Ukraine, and I hope of our allies. And maybe even Trump will sometime soon realize that, or at least he will feel the falling of his rating, and that will change his attitude. I'm very grateful to all the American people who keep demonstrating their strong support for Ukraine. This means a lot to us. And we keep fighting for freedom and liberation, and for the defeat, if you know, this authoritarian trends and fashion in the world. I'm here in Lviv for Lviv Media Forum, and I was really happy to see an Applebaum today speaking to the audience. I was very happy to interview Valery Pekar, who is a great Ukrainian intellectual, and soon you will see an interview on the channel where we will speak about how to make Russia small again. And in general, we were talking about the resilience, but I think we were demonstrating this resilience when lots of beautiful people, strong, smart people come to Ukraine to speak about these realities of war journalism in bomb shelters. But these bomb shelters look so great. So you cannot stop Ukraine, you cannot defeat Ukraine, and you can keep sacking Russian generals. That is the best option, actually. The very fact that since the beginning of this year, Putin has already fired dozens of top military, of various generals, that he fired the Minister of Defense, or should I say the Minister of Attacks, with whom he began this war, with whom he began a lot of wars, is definitely the demonstration of not just one failed blitzkrieg, but a number of failed Russian strategies. And please remember that we liberated Kherson, and the very same way we can liberate Crimea and invite you there. And it will not be a rusty, dirty Russian military base, but a beautiful subtropical peninsula with lots of restaurants and places to visit, to experience beautiful culture, to experience very tasty cuisine. And we are working on that. Trust me, you want to live in the world where Ukraine is victorious, not the Kremlin gobbling. So let's remain united. And to demonstrate that unity, you can actually check the merch shop, because of Vyshyvanka Day, we still have our sale for collections, Heritage and Trident, -15. Remember to follow me on Instagram. I'm sharing more of my everyday life and visits during this Lviv Media Forum. Also, subscribe to my X, I'm fighting there, Blue Sky Threads, and we have an amazing Discord community. Thank you so much for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for being friends of mine, for being friends of Ukraine, and let me know in the comments below what are the things you would like me to share about Lviv, or maybe you have visited this beautiful city. Thank you once again for all the support that I feel. Remember to check my new channel, Anna Danilchuk, where I share more of this everyday civilian experience in time of the big war. And for example, the previous time I've introduced you to Ukrainian hryvnia. And do we have any problems with transactions, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and for example, how do we get cash during the blackouts? So check this video on the channel too. And thank you so much. United we stand. Slava Ukraini!